The last principle we have is Dependency Inversion Principle, DIP. So what it says that high-level modules should not depend on low-level modules. Both should depend on abstractions. And abstractions should not depend on details. Details should depend on abstractions. High-level modules are the modules that has the business logic and that orchestration the flow of our application. If we have a logic that will save the changes into the database, so that logic or that interface is the high level module. Low level modules are the classes or the objects that we have. For example, we are saving the data into the database for the employee. So we pass the employee as a parameter. So whatever the class that we pass as a parameter, that is the low level module, and whichever class is implementing or saving the data into the database is the high level module. This principle, it encourages the decoupling between modules by introducing the interfaces and the abstract classes that define the interaction between them. Let's understand it by an example. It would be easy to understand. So we have a logger class that is going to log to the console as well as log to the files. I hope you have understood what we have discussed so far. And if you like the contents that I've been teaching, please do subscribe my channel. It would mean a lot to me. Let's talk about our last principle. So it says that the higher level modules, they should not depend on the lower level modules. Instead, they should depend on the abstractions. And if you see here in our library service, the library service is our higher level module and the authentication service is our low level module. This is higher level module because it has the business logic, and this is the lower level module. So we are directly dependent on the lower level module. What if in the future the authentication is changed? Then we would have to make the changes in the library service. That would violate the open close principle. So let's modify our code to implement the last principle. Let's implement our interface here for the authentication. We call it I authentication. Okay, this would have the same method, but we would rename it to something else. We would call it is valid. Okay, and this would have the student object. Now this authentication service would implement the I authentication interface. We can copy this one here. We can implement the method. We can copy this one and we'll paste it here. So far so good, right? Now we would rename this to student authentication service. This is because we are checking the authentication for the students. So we should have the name of our service related to the functionality that we have implemented. Now let's just say the library want to expand and now it's open for the public. Now anyone can access the library as long as they are registered with the library. Okay. If they are registered with the library, that means we would have something that would validate the user is registered. We can call it a user authentication service, and we can check the username and the password for the user authentication service. Is it right? Now this library service should not no longer depend on the lower level modules, instead it depend on the abstract. So that's what we have done here. So now we would replace it is valid. See how it easier was to make the changes that will accept any kind of authentication service that we added. Now let's add it. Instead of passing the authentication as student, we would also check if it works for the user as well. Let me create another. We call it a user. The username is 1, password is 1. For the first, I will be passing the authentication to the library service for the students, and we would check if it works. Let me run it. See, it's working fine. So instead of student authentication, now I want to use the user authentication. See how it easy was to implement or the change the service. And if we pass the user authentication, it's saying user is not. This is because we didn't change in the process checkout. See, it's working for both student authentication as well as the user authentication. So that's it for now. If we follow these design principles, how easier it is extend our library service if something new requirement comes into the picture. Code reusability would be more, It would be easy to manage as well, and our code is not messy. I hope you have understood all the concepts that we have discussed so far. That's all for now. Please don't forget to subscribe the channel and like the videos. So that's all from my side. Thank you. Bye bye.